Hey YouTube, it is league turnover today, and it's a very tricky week actually because it is Master League Open, which is obviously limited to a lot of people. A lot of people can't play Master League, and Fantasy Cup Great League Edition. So Fantasy Cup Great League Edition is a 1500 CP, so Great League, which is nice, but only Dragon, Steel, and Fairy. And when you get a three typing meta, and one of those typings resists the other two typings, it's going to be a very limited meta, right? So Steel resists both Dragon and Fairy, which puts Steel as a huge advantage. We're going to look at the rankings in a second. And it's just going to focus, it's just going to limit how teams are built and how teams counter what other people think they're going to run, right? So let's look at the rankings. As you're going to see tons and tons of Steel on this top list. Out of this top list, Registeel, Stunfisk, Lucario, Escav, Excadrill, the Shadow version, the non-Shadow Excadrill, Flygon's Dragon, Skarmory, Mawile, Skarmory Shadow again, Slash is 11, Bastion 12, the other one's 13, and Fortress is 14. So 14 of the top 20 have a Steel component to them. And then the other fairies are just going to be like just bulky, nice answers, and then you got a couple dragons on here, but they're not even like, they're not on here because they're dragons. They're on here because they have secondary moves that will beat the Steels is essentially how it goes, right? So not surprising that you have Registeel and Stunfisk at the top. I think they're interchangeable. Registeel maybe just a bit better because it has the Focus Blast, which can probably one-shot most Steel things, plus Zap Cannon for what's important is for the Azumarill and Tapu Fini at number 3 and 5, the fairies. So Registeel should be everywhere. Probably acting as a safe swap on most Steel teams, because even if you get hit with a counter user, just being able to Focus Blast and Zap Cannon those counter users is going to be pretty big. But Stunfisk S2 is basically interchangeable. I'm gonna skip and just go straight to Excadrill because I think Excadrill kind of plays a similar role to Stunfisk. I think Excadrill is a Stunfisk light. So Registeel at the top, Stunfisk 1B, Excadrill as like the poor man's choice, because same thing, like, right, look at the moves on Stunfisk and Excadrill. Both have Mudshot, both have Rock Slide. Excadrill just has Joe Run versus Earthquake. Excadrill is just a little more glossy, right? So your light version of Stunfisk is Excadrill at 8 and 10. I'll look at Skarmory. Skarmory's an interesting one in the fact that there is going to be Azumarills and Tapus. The problem is water neutralizes the Steel Wing, because Steel Wing is super effective against Fairy, but resisted by the water. So you're only getting neutral with the Steel Wing. But as a Steel, you'll resist the Dragons, unless they're counter users, that's neutral. But yeah, you neutralize counter with the Flying. So it could have play. I'm going to skip Mawile for a second because I'm going to cover it with the Fire there. Sandslash is an interesting one. I don't know. I didn't put Sandslash on a team. Again, there are some like ground type Pokemon on here, and Steel's having the drill run is nice. I just think there's gonna be so many counter users and fires on this that it's gonna be kind of risky to run in my opinion. But I can be proven wrong. If you make it work, let me know. Bastion is just gonna be sort of like tanky answer to a lot of the dragons and the fires, and then can kind of hold in with like Azumarill. Azumarill has Ice Beam Play Rough. I did Ice Beam Play Rough on one of mine but I did switch it to Hydro Pump. I just don't see a reason why you would run Ice Beam Play Rough when you know that the majority of the Pokemon on this list are going to be Steels, and Steel for the most part, unless they're half ground here, is going to resist both Ice Beam and Play Rough. So I think you probably want to run Hydro Pump, and then your second move is dependent. I think you kind of need Play Rough because I expect a lot of Azumarills and a lot of Tapus out here. And then Tapu is just kind of like a lighter version of Azumarill, more fast move pressure with Water Gun, and then just way glossier compared to the XL. So that is that. I skipped over Lucario, so because I'm gonna group it with two other things here. So I got an all fighting team because there's only three. I did at counter, and there's only 3 at counter users. Lucario at 4, Escav at 6, Haxorus at 15. So there's your 3 counter user answers to all the Steels. So I put them on the team, so I'll just go over them there, but that's going to be their main role. And then there's one pure fire half fire, half dragon Turtonator. I guess I need to learn how to pronounce it if I'm going to be using it. But just half dragon, half fire. Really nice. You just need to, like, if you're going to be using it, cover your azumarill Tapu Fini, because those should be everywhere, and you are just, you have nothing to throw at it, so you're kind of dry there. Mawel is a fairy steel, but it has Fire Fang. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see a lot of Fire Fang power punches Mawel just to like ramp up with Fire Fang on these steels. And then Play Rock gives you coverage against the dragons. But again, if you're running a Fire Fang fast move, just cover your water weakness. And then Haxorus is a dragon, but just with the counter user, and then Breaking Swipe, and then Surf here to cover all your ground. So Haxorus could be kind of a sneaky play too. I guess the only ones I didn't really cover are Flygon. Flygon has a dragon, ground. The ground Mud Shot gives you a lot of play, and Scorching Sands gives you a lot of play against all the steels that you're going to see. And then Dragon Claw as coverage for the dragons, right? So it's a pretty limited meta. I didn't even go over Fortress. Fortress, Bug Buzz, I'm not going to, maybe it's stronger, but like with steels, like Bug Bite is resisted by the fairies, it's resisted by the steels. I don't know how much play it's actually going to have, even though it's rank 20. But that kind of shows you, like I said, like Sandslash, Bastion, Fortress, I just took off like everything below 15, and then a lot of the top 15 are like doubles. Shadow, non-shadow, Excadrill. Shadow, non-shadow, Skarmory. Shadow, non-shadow, Flygon here. Like, the meta is limited, and I got 7 teams here, but 7 teams, a lot of Pokemon repeat 2 or 3 times, and that's unfortunately what this cup is going to be. So I started with rank 1 Registeel. Let's see what it looks like. It looks pretty freaking safe. And then what are your weaknesses? Stunfisk and counter users. Really, counter users and fire. If you're weak to counter user and fire, put in a Fairy Water. And hello, there's your super combo down the board there, covering all your weaknesses. Pick a third. I find that like if you're gonna have Registeel Azumarill, like Azumarill's gonna lose to Registeel, and Registeel's mirror match, so that's just like who's gonna get to the focus blast first. So that's why I put in Haxorus as a counter user, just because you need probably another answer to Registeel. So Haxorus as counter user, and I didn't want to use Lucario or Escaf because they are already weak to fire, and I don't want to double fire weakness because I think you're probably going to see some fires out here. So very basic team. Can you go ABB with Registeel, Galarian, Stunfisk? Yes, you can. Put them in the back. I think both can act as okay safe swaps. Draw out a counter user, Togetic, or anything. They said Azumarill. Like they actually gave recommendation for Azumarill. I tried to go a little off the board here with Togetic, but you can use Azumarill, just any sort of, you can use Tapu, any fairy that, because Azu and Tapu are actually probably better because you're double weak to fire in the back as well, right? You're double weak to counter and double weak to fire in the back. So Azumarill, Tapu are probably better, but if you want a different fairy option, right, there it is, right? You're already seeing how limited this cup is. Can you run a triple counter team? So here's all the counter users in the meta, and there is your 3 domination of Registeel. Does it work? Probably not. You are double weak to fire with Escav and Lucario, right? So you get lit up by the Turtonator and Mawel. Looks like Flygon as the half ground, half dragon is going to take care of a lot of stuff. Azumarill as the fairy and Tapu Fini resisting all the counters is a problem, right? So I don't think you can realistically do this team. I just want to show you like the 3 counter users out there and what they would look like together. Could you maybe go like, instead of Lucario, Escav, because they kind of have the same weaknesses and play the same role, can you go like Haxorus, one of Lucario and Escav, and then something to beat Azumarill, and something to beat Tapu Fini and Azumarill? Yes. Like if you want to do some sort of ground that would also cover the fire dragon there, yes, you can do that. So that is the counter team. And then I tried Lucario. I was like, okay, can I make a team that is not just a counter user meme team? So I started with Lucario. You can use the other ones as well, like Escav. okay down the board. Some weaknesses, cover that weakness with Tapu. Again, just you're weak to fire and you're weak to counter, so cover it with a fairy water. And then pick a third, put a Bastion. Bastion, again, I was just trying to put like other Pokemon together, but like between all the counter users and the ground users, like Bastion doesn't seem safe to me. So I'd probably go with a different third, but like it's an option. And that's why I truly think this meta is going to be like 10 Pokemon. So I think this meta is going to be about learning your matchups. Is about learning your matchups. So speaking about the Fire Dragon here, look at its matchups down the board, right? So its biggest problem is weak to Dragonite, because Dragonite is going to be super effective against you and just outpace you before you get to the, because you run Overheat. You run Overheat as a charge move, a charge Dragon move, I forget, I think Dragon Pulse or something like that, and then an Incinerate fast move. So something like Dragonite will beat you, and then Flygon as the ground is just going to outpace you too. But other than that, like you do a lot of things weak to fire. Even against like the fairy water, you seem to be able to, you'll lose, but it's not like a filled in circle loss, which indicates like super hard losses. So that was interesting to me. So I think this Pokemon will be probably everywhere. I haven't even checked my inventory to see if I have one that can be built for this meta yet. But I think it's going to be everywhere if you don't have one. Again, if you're going to be weak to Flygon and Dragonite as dragons, cover it with a fairy weakness. And then I put in the third. Skirmy is, again, kind of interesting one. Has play against a lot of stuff. Electric is the biggest weakness. And then a pure steel like Registeel is going to be tough, especially with Zap Cannon. But other than that, like, it's not bad. It's not bad. I mean, you're weak to fire. Yeah, fire and electric. So you got to cover those weaknesses, which you do with the water, and I mean you're double weak to electric actually, quite honestly. But I don't know how many Magnezones you're gonna see, right? When there's a lot of fire, you may see Magnezones, right? Because there's gonna be a lot of Tapu Finis and Azumarill, so maybe you'll see some Magnezones. But like with all the ground out here, Stunfisk and Flygon and stuff, all the dragons out here, and the fires out here, it's gonna be a little trickier to run Magnezone, I think. But yeah, if you make it work, send me the videos. I would like to showcase it. Again, Excadrill is like a G-Fisk light, so not bad down the board, right? Kind of similar-ish to G-Fisk, just a little worse. Flygon. Flygon's interesting because I think Flygon is probably one of the best all cover Pokemons in this meta, and I think that it would probably be the best safe swap. You got ground that will deal with all the steels and the fire, and you got the dragon move that will deal with the dragons, and then you can just use the ground move on the fairy. So I think Flygon is probably, I didn't even look at the rankings for safe swaps, but I gotta imagine like Registeel, Stunfisk, and Flygon are probably, and maybe Azumarill, quite honestly, are probably gonna be some of your best safe swaps in this meta. And then paired in the back with like Registeel, because you know, what else are you gonna do in this meta? And the last team I got here, the double fairy water in the back. And this is what I expect a lot of people to run, and this is what I think was going to be a very strong team too. The water fairies are very, very, very strong in this meta, right? You are weak to electric, but you can kind of chip electric. Ferrothorn, again, I don't expect a lot of Ferrothorns when you're weak to counter and fire. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you'll see those, but I don't expect a lot of those. You can still hang in there with Registeel with these Pokemon. So add a Registeel like counter, plus 2 of these in the back. I think this is going to be a very dominant team. I wouldn't be surprised if I run something similar to this first, just to like knock it out, because I feel like this is the most obvious team to deal with a lot of what the meta is. So I may try this first. Not 100% sure though. We'll see. I don't even know if I have one of these. I remember doing some raids for them, but I don't even know what the CP is and stuff like that. So I need to look at my stuff. Maybe I'll put in like Mawile as the answer instead if I don't have this, because Mawile with Firefang, I do have that, so I could use that instead. Anyways, that's it. Unfortunately, like I said, I think this is going to be a very, very, very limited meta, which is not great when you only have this in Master League, right? So Registeel, Stunfisk, Azumarill, Lucario, Tapu Fini, Escav, and Haxorus, I guess, too. Turtonator, Excadrill, I don't, you'll see some, but again, most will just use Stunfisk. Registeel, Flygon, I think will be really strong. Maybe some Skarmories and Mawels off the cusp there, but you're looking at 12, 13 Pokemon for this meta. So good luck. Let me know if you think, like, looking at this list, see a combo that you want to use. If not, stay tuned for tomorrow for my first team. But that is it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one.